Teachers of Reddit, what is the strangest note you have had to write home to parents? In kindergarten, my boyfriend and I went into the bathroom together. He then proceeded to take my dress off. At that point, the other kids in my class realized we were missing and started messing with the light switch, which was outside the door. As I was apparently more scared of the dark than running around in my birthday suit, I sprinted out into the middle of the classroom in nothing but my Wednesday underwear. My parents got a letter warning them of inappropriate behavior and the importance of wearing underwear with the correct day of the week, as it had been a Monday. My boyfriend had apparently also pulled the same stunt with my best friend earlier in the day, so that was a fun little Mayonnaise choice talk. TLDR. Some dudes learn how to pimp at a real young age, and day of the week underwear is super treacherous. Sounds like maybe he might have had some inappropriate crap going on at home. I think I was in grade 7 at this point. Every year the female GR8s go to the local high school for a women's sports day, and afterwards they get a gift bag which contains some candy, deodorant and tampons. Well, me being the very mature 13-year-old I was, I found out that if you push the back of the tampon applicator, the actual tampon comes flying out. So I was basically shooting people with tampons. So the next day I get on the bus and the bus driver starts bitching about how she found tampons on the bus. She knew it was me, so when we got to school she took me to the office and told the principal. Oh. Long story short, he called my parents about the incident and my mom makes fun of me every day for getting in trouble by shooting tampons at people. Hello, Mrs. Graham? Yes, your son was shooting tampons at people and he's in trouble. In maybe 2nd grade, I had fallen down, I think at recess, and sent to the nurse's office. As far as I can remember, I think it just scrapped my thigh, but for some reason I had to go. The nurse needed to spray something on the area, probably disinfectant, and told me I needed to drop my pants. I was maybe 7, so I didn't see the big deal. I dropped them. She sprayed me and I was allowed back to recess. She was very impressed though that I was so brave to drop my pants and called my mom to let her know. I can only imagine how odd that was for my mom to hear the school nurse talk about how brave her 7-year-old son was to drop his pants for her. I'm having a bit of trouble believing the nurse thought you were brave just for dropping your pants for her. She likely just told your mother how brave you were for not freaking out when she put disinfectant on. Unless the nurse had a thing for children with dropped pants, in which case I'll leave quietly. Not me, but a classmate. So this guy, let's call him Joe, has been keeping one of those mayo packets in his desk for a while now. So one day in class, he takes it out and starts to play with it, just kinda flipping it around and stuff. All of a sudden, we hear this pop. I look over and see Joe's face covered with mayonnaise. I don't think the teacher wanted to write him up, but here's why the report said. Instead of doing assigned work, Joe popped a mayonnaise packet under his desk. Mayo went everywhere. This will probably get buried, unless there are some kind of people reading the new comments. Kind of the opposite. I had to bring my parents a note home in preschool because my friend and I got suspended for threatening to hit my teacher over the head with a vacuum cleaner. According to the note, we weren't singing and dancing with the rest of the kids, so we were kept inside for playtime. We sat outside our teacher's office, who just so happened to be the principal, and plotted about how we were going to hit her over the head with a vacuum. Keep in mind, we were 3-4 at the time. My mom recently found the letter, and the teacher had written, I kid you not, I have never been more afraid for my life. 3-year-olds. I had to call a student's parents because he was drawing dongs all over other kids' papers. I warned him that I had to call. He was a junior in high school, and told him that if he broke the news first, it would probably go smoother. When I called, I calmly explained to his mom that he had been drawing crude dongs everywhere. She was quiet for a moment, and then replied, that's what he was saying. When he called me, I thought he said he was drawing peanuts. The next day, the kid finds me and says that morning at breakfast, his dad was at the table reading the paper when he sat down. Dad creases the paper down and says, you think you're freaking funny, drawing dongs on people's papers? You're done. Something like 8% of kids do it, but whatever. I used to take peanut butter and a spoon to school for lunch cause I was, am still, a picky freaking kid. I did this for a while and ended up making a necklace with a plastic spoon on the end. My friends liked it and I ended up making more and sharing my peanut butter. Well, once it got big enough, the administration clearly had to put a stop to this. The VP confronted me in the hallway and made me give up my spoon. I did it again and so did everyone else. They took everyone's spoons. Said we could no longer do it. I argued it was for my lunch and they didn't give a dang. They said that it was drug paraphernalia. A freaking plastic spoon on boondoggle around my neck. Mine wasn't so much a note sent home, but a little tidbit added to the school handbook banning plastic spoons on necklaces. That's right, I got plastic spoon necklaces banned from my junior high. That was 13 years ago. My brother went to that same school 2 years back. Guess what rule is still in their handbook? School admins are idiots, ha 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 ha. The vice principal at my HS called my parents to tattle on me. They reinstated the Pledge of Allegiance after years of not doing it. Not sure why. And when the kid who sat behind me didn't say it, I didn't either, just to see what would happen. All the kids who didn't recite the pledge were sent to the VP's office. I overheard the kid say that he was Jewish and it was against his religion to say the words under God, and they let him go without incident. My turn was up next, so I told him that I was an atheist and I didn't believe in God and saying the pledge was against my beliefs. The VP flipped his lid, got right in my face and said things to me like, "How can you look at yourself in the mirror every morning and you're a disgrace," etc., etc. I was a drum major in the marching band, not a majorette. Big difference. And he asked me how I could salute the US flag during football games when the national anthem was played, and I replied coldly, "Because it's my job." I thought the top of his head was going to blow right off. A little backstory. I was really just doing it to rile this guy up, as he was a real jerkwad and he didn't like me because my older brother was a notorious troublemaker while I was a straight A student and very involved in lots of extracurriculars. The VP was desperate to catch me doing something wrong and had tried and failed to mess with me in other ways throughout HS. It really was a weird Ferris Bueller kind of situation. Looking back at it, dude had some issues. Anyway, VP called my house and got my stepdad, ranted on for a while about how they should pull me from marching band and other unkind things. My stepfather replied gruffly, "I don't give a crap what she does," not getting any satisfaction there. The VP went to my music teacher demanding I be removed from band and he politely refused, saying that it was my choice and that my job with the band was completely separate. That guy was the single most influential teacher I ever had. Long story, but it was gratifying to be supported when I was bucking the system such as it was then. GTA, I'm getting a lot of comments about fairness, etc. And I'm realizing I should have mentioned that this happened around 1990. Things were pretty different then, so just as a frame of reference. As a Canadian, I find the idea of saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day, or actually at all, kind of creepy. We did play the national anthem every day at one of my high schools, but we didn't have to sing along or anything, and I think that's pretty weird too. Nationalism is weird, and I don't know that I think it belongs in public schools any more than religion does. No note sent home, but my teacher called my mom for rather an absurd reason. I went to Catholic high school and religion class was mandatory. We had some sort of project in said class, I forget what exactly, about religion in the public eye, and for some reason I wound up investigating the typical PMRC claims that heavy metal music was perpetuating the influence of Satan. My teacher got me some really good research materials, long before the internet existed, and I did quite a good project on it, and concluded that it was a lot of hysteria. Anyhow, I was taking an after-school calligraphy course as well, and the students often talked to each other during it, and I wound up telling a friend about my project, and she asked about the so-called satanic practices in metal. We were giggling a fair bit about it, and at one point I told her about the claim that Satanists made the backwards sign of the cross. She wanted to know what it was, and I demonstrated, and the calligraphy teacher had a total fit, and called my parents to tell them they had a burgeoning Satanist on hand. I guess they took the Catholic thing fairly seriously in those days, despite the school being open to students of all religious backgrounds by law, but I guess not Satanists. Not a teacher, but a student. I got sent home with a note and suspended in 3rd grade because I couldn't draw. Teacher asked us to draw what we want to be when we grow up. I drew a rocket ship with exhaust fumes blowing out the back. Teacher sent me to the office with the paper. Teacher called home and gave them a note when they came to get me. The note said, your son, Santa Tiller, decided to draw a dong on his assignment today. I don't know what you teach your kid at home, but we don't want a pervert here. My parents laughed really hard and put the picture and note on the fridge. It is there to this day. I graduate tomorrow. Congrats on graduating 3rd grade, you're almost an adult. I work with preschoolers and have written numerous notes home for biting, spitting and fighting, which are typical. A few weeks ago I had to write an interesting note home and talked with the parents a bit. A bunch of the boys kept coming up to me and said Cameron is following me in the potty and poking my peanuts. This has happened before and I had thought I had the situation under control, but clearly he decided it was time to start doing it again, resulting in the strangest note I have written home to parents. Oh goodness. My extensive knowledge of Law and Order SVU tells me he's probably being physically shamed at home. I had my 8th grade band teacher send home a note concerned that I wanted to frick him. My parents confronted me about it and I fell over laughing thinking it was a joke. When I found out they were serious, they showed me the note. I vomited and started to cry. I went to school the next day and told him to go frick himself. When I got to the principal's office I explained the situation and furnished the note. He was nice as pie to me the rest of the year and my dad chaperoned the rest of the band trips that year. TLDR, don't accuse your students of wanting the D. You may get labeled a diddler. I've only had 2 notes home for my son and I can't decide which is better. Age 2. Daycare. My entire family has a nickname for my son. We call him Turtle. I failed to mention this to my daycare provider, so at the end of his first week I go to get his stuff out of his cubby and there's this cryptically scrawled note that says, thinks he is a turtle. He thinks his feet are flippers. He insists he is a turtle. I'm concerned and I thought you should know. TLDR. My son thought he was a turtle. The next one wasn't an actual note but a verbal notification from his kindergarten teacher a few weeks ago. She informed me that my son had asked her if there was a Mr. C at home and when she told him she was unmarried he took it upon himself to try to persuade her to date his father's friend who is also single. This particular friend just so happens to be 50 and gay, but that's obviously irrelevant. His teacher seemed mildly disappointed when I told her. TLDR. My son was trying to set up his kindergarten teacher with one of his dad's friends. He'll make a great wingman one day. My elementary school always got pee at me for stupid stuff. My mom was told she needed to come take me home one day, so she rushed from work worried about what happened. I had climbed in the sink and wet my shirt because they hadn't turned on the AC and it was hot as heck in there. My mom just told them that they should turn on the AC and never to waste her time over something so trivial again. Then she told me she was proud of me for coming up with a solution to my problem. My mom's a boss. In this case I was the student. We have to write notes for where we were if we come in late at my old junior high school. I was at the orthodontist getting my retainer checked out and my mother had already called that morning so I thought I was fine. So instead of saying I was at the ortho, I wrote my horse had broken down and I had to run in to get repairs. So the principal was not very happy about this and sent a note home saying that I didn't take security measures seriously and that I shouldn't be around farm animals unattended. We had a good laugh about it at home. Not a teacher here, but in 2nd grade I was sent to the principal's office, and shortly thereafter home, for interrupting class in order to constantly correct my teacher's grammar, spelling, basic math, and analog clock reading skills. Obviously, no one believes an 8-year-old who claims his teacher was just being mean, and my parents were furious. I was grounded for a week, until they had time to meet with some school officials, the teacher included. My mother, being a college-level English professor, only needed about 5 minuets alone in a room with the teacher to determine that I was, in fact, not just acting out. I was moved up to 3rd grade and taken out for Baskin-Robbins and a movie to make up for the week of punishment before the meeting. The offending teacher would give me the nastiest looks the rest of that year, which for 8-year-old Armada 1 was terrifying. She wasn't at the school the next year, and I never did find out what the end consequence for her was. Hopefully she had to take some remedial English and math classes. Most tame was when a boy took a chunk out of a girl's hair with a pair of scissors. Worst wasn't a note home but having to explain to a class that one of their fellow students was taken into custody for the robbery and murder of one of the night school kids. Turned out he wasn't the gunman, just the guy who collected the wallets. Guess which of these happened in an all-white suburban elementary school, and which happened in a very rough, all-black, super impoverished inner city school. I no longer teach, by the way. Teaching in an low SES environment takes a lot out of you. I just want this to be a trick question so incredibly bad. A friend's mother had this one a couple of years ago. Third graders that were on the playground going about their normal playing when a little came up and said Timmy tased her. The girl was fine and didn't appear to have any marks, so it was initially marked up as imagination or playing. Not soon after, another child reported that Timmy was chasing people with his taser. They finally tracked Timmy down and found that he was running around with a vibrating corn cob poking other kids and saying it was a taser. Turned out to be his grandmother's dildo that he took from the nightstand. Not a letter, but a very awkward phone call was made. The best part is that my friend's mother is ultra conservative and very religious. She could barely even relay the story without stop to pray for forgiveness. Funny and depressing. Daughter started first grade. Everything seemed fine at first. Then my daughter started getting notes sent home. First big one was that when she didn't want to do something, my daughter would scream and hide under her desk. Second one was a write-up because she'd been writing in cursive, which isn't done in first grade. Hello, To Kill a Mockingbird. A teacher ripped up her assignment. Right around late November she was begging to stay home sick every day. Got a note about her going out at recess every day, walking into the middle of the soccer field, and flopping face down for the duration of recess. She was in trouble because she wasn't supposed to use the soccer field at recess, and the teacher didn't want to go get her. Yeah, there is no sense of drama in this family. This is my story. In 8th grade I had a few jackass moments. This was one of them. During PE, our teacher left to go collect some basketballs or something from the storage locker. We were all in a circle talking, so I decided to see if I could get chant going. I chanted Glenn sucks dong for about 30 seconds. No one joined in until the chant turned on me and everyone started chanted Mark sucks dong. I am Mark. Eventually the chant got so loud that teachers in the nearest classroom could hear. Every kid had to write Mark sucks dong 100 times and have their parents sign it. I was not well liked by the parents of my school after that. Not a teacher but a friend of my family, long time ago, had a daughter who would come home with bruises on her left hand. She went to an all-girls Catholic school, and one of the nuns would hit her left hand whenever she would write with it. Girl was left-handed. Father knew this and did the only thing he thought would mend the situation and sent a message to the nun. He walked into her classroom after school one day and put a gun in her face and said, "My daughter is going to write with her left hand from now on, or I'll blow your freaking head off." This story takes place at recess in 3rd grade. I was sitting on the jungle gym, at the area where you get on the fireman's pole, with my feet hanging down, just chillaxin', being my 8-year-old self. This girl is playing tag and sprinting through the jungle gym. She turns to see if she's getting chased, and runs full speed into the fireman's pole. It made an extremely loud metallic clanging sound that my child brain thought was hilarious. Teachers came running at the sound of her face making contact with the fireman's pole, and she claims I kicked her in the face. What? So despite overwhelming evidence including the really loud metallic sound that initially drew attention, the lack of a shoe print and abundance of a pole print, and the fact that my little legs were too short to kick her in the face from that distance anyways, my mom got a note that read something like "By whom dropped kicked a girl in the face today." I really doubt this will be seen since there's so many comments already. When I was in kindergarten, my teacher had to write a note home to my mom, who was a teacher's assistant at the school. The note went something like this: Mikili 31's mom. Today in the lunch line, Mikili 31 and another boy were hitting each other in the private parts with their fists. When I told them to keep their hands to themselves, Mikili 31 began to hit himself in the privates. Something along the lines of talking to me about my behavior. Mikili 31's teacher. My mom still thinks this story is hilarious almost 20 years later because I did what the teacher asked and kept my hands to myself. High school teacher here. I had to inform a mother that her 10th grade son was sitting in the front row reaching up his shorts leg to adjust himself repeatedly. The worst 45 minutes of class this year. Only to be topped by the morning I walked in to have found out that someone masturbated to my picture and left me a gift on my desk. Ah, the joys of teaching. And, yes, I'm female. Forgot to add the time I sent a kid out for asking if there was a teachers working against tobacco tea at the school and if I was in it. The worst part was trying to explain to the strongly conservative and sheltered Christian principal why I found it offensive. Posted from mobile, so expect some typos. Not a teacher, but I do have a story that is relevant. I was in 7th grade and like most kids in middle school, it's a time of expression. Finding out who you are, and experiencing new things. So I started listening to new types of music, hanging out with different people, but the biggest difference is that I decided to shave half my head and dye my hair black. After dyeing my hair at home and going into school, I definitely got the reactions that I wanted. Everyone thought my hair was weird and different and commented on it and overall noticed me more. Unknown to me, however, was the fact that my hair changed color in the crappy fluorescent lighting that my school had. So to everyone else it appeared to have a very slight blue tint to it. I got through most of the day without any teachers taking notice or generally giving a funk. But near the end of lunch that all changed. I was asked to go to the principal's office and speak to him. I was not informed of what we would be discussing, so I freaked out a little bit. Once I was in his office, he said my hair was blue. I disagreed because the box said black. But he decided that it was necessary to send me home after calling my mom at work. He cited the reasoning that my hair color was a distraction to the other students, which it was, but my dismissal from school that day was all anyone talked about for the rest of the day, so I feel like he only escalated the situation and made his problem worse by sending me home. I later found out that he was colorblind, red-blue, and he couldn't have known what color my hair was. I was super into Goosebumps and Fear Street, as most kids were when I was in elementary school. Despite being a pretty conservative, God-fearing woman, my mom would buy them for me, to encourage me reading and probably to shut me up for decent stretches of time. In 5th grade, we had these quick drawing activities. The teacher would hand out a piece of paper with a strange squiggle or line on it, and we had 5-10 minutes to make it into a full picture. I was class artist at the time, so mine were usually elaborate and, in my honest opinion, pretty freaking stellar. They apparently were also very dark. The final straw for my teacher was when I drew a robber character, very Batman Joker-like, who had clearly murdered someone in the background. That earned me a call home and suggestions that I be taken to someone that I can talk to. My mom's response was to storm in my room and purge all of my books, except the Bibles. A few years later, possibly related to complaints from staff that I was instigating witchcraft at church confirmation camp, my mom banned any Harry Potter books from the house before I could even get my hands on one. My son was physically shamed at a young age. In kindergarten we got a call from the teacher stating that my son was groping a female student. Turned out they apparently had a 2-hour nap period. When we talked to my son, he told us he couldn't sleep and they were basically having a tickle fight. I guess since we had shared with the teacher that he had been physically shamed, she assumed his contact with a female student must have been physical. That was his last year at that school, and the last time we shared his history with a caregiver. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.